So Jimbo of Ranier Racing, how you doing this morning?
Good. How are you?
Awesome. Jimbo, you have been a part of the Pacific Majors and obviously some other series that we've done for 3 years since we started this thing in 2014. As a matter of fact, you won the inaugural event of the official series in 2014, the Rolex. So that's pretty cool. So we go back a ways as far as this deal is concerned. But and I want to get into your thoughts on the series in general. But I want to start off with the team since it's sort of a new thing, and you really it seems like you embraced it this year, creating Rainier. So talk to me about how you went about creating the new team and how you chose the guys and how you guys came together.
Um, yeah, I really like the team concept, which is something that we had talked about for years. Uh, I really wanted to get the part of the Pacific Majors that I care about the most is sort of the regional battle, I guess. And so for the Northwest Club, which I'm a big proponent of the World Cup as well, I wanted to get a team of only Northwest drivers. So I wasn't really necessarily looking at, well, let's get the most talented drivers and compete with Fleischle and Blake and some of the stronger teams in the league. But I wanted to get a team that had featured Northwest drivers alone. And part of the goal was to uh, um, uh, get people that I believed weren't going to be, jerks in the forums and yelling at people over chat. I wanted to get good guys. And I did. So we had one unfortunate driver leave, Bradley Haley, because of just life pressures. But he was a great addition to the team as well. So I just invited guys who worked with the World Cup team and just drivers that I knew, over the years behaved well. And so that was an important ingredient. And I told him when I asked him onto the team, I said, hey, you're representing other drivers and you're representing the Northwest, and please don't be a jerk. If you got to do it behind closed doors. Don't do it out in public. So I think we've lived up to that pretty well. So I'm proud of that.
You have, and maybe even too well. You guys are to me. I want to add a spotlight to your team because as I look at that team, with Ryan Worley, Mitchell Cornett, Bruce Nelson, and obviously you said Bradley left, which is too bad, and yourself. When I saw you guys put that team together in the off season, you mentioned that you weren't necessarily going for the most talented guys, but you got them. If you were to look at the talent level and the I rating of your team combined, I've not actually done the math, but I would argue that you guys are, if not the highest team, one of the highest teams for sure. But one thing I also noticed was that it was really heavily slanted towards the roadside, which is obviously your comfort zone and where you're strongest. Was there any thought into bringing in any oval specialists, or was it just all about the personality?
Uh, I wanted to, like I said, I thought that character was an important aspect. And because I'm not much of an oval racer, I just don't know who the good oval racers are necessarily to invite. But, I invited my friends who are road racers. And, I don't want to say that we're bad at ovals. I think Ryan in particular is really strong in the ovals on our team. But Cornette and Snelson and I, we can turn left as good as anybody else. So,
Yeah.
You've heard me, and all the oval guys hate me for saying this, but you know, sticking it to the floor and turning left. I mean, if you don't get collected in the big one, you have a chance to do well.
Yeah.
And I know that there is skill to driving ovals, but in my opinion, it's much harder to learn a course and memorize a course on the roadside. And that's where my pleasure is. That's where my joy is. So I just grabbed guys that I knew. If I knew better oval drivers, or if there's an oval driver out there that wants to join our team from the Northwest, since Bradley left, you're more than welcome to reach out to me.
Good advertisement. So clearly the talent is there, and that's not in question. But I will tell you where the expertise comes in is that setup, right? That tenth of a second, that 2/10 of a second. And obviously Ryan on like Indy is probably invaluable to the team. But otherwise, it's not from a lack of talent, but maybe just from setting up that dang car on the ovals, because that's so specific and makes all the difference in the world between between pro split and not, and top of the field and not, and all that good stuff. So talk to me about how you guys do you guys have a team methodology for approaching a race? Does everybody have a role, or are you that far along development wise, or how do you guys do it?
We don't have a particular process. Certain races we've really practiced for and gotten together and shared setups, and other races, it was a crapshoot doing these little, five flags things, and so we're just all kind of at the mercy of whatever happens on the track. Setup doesn't really matter. Mm-hmm. So as I think that when we get to the kind of the fixed cars, definitely the setup becomes more important. But one of the things that we tried to do with our team was, for the Predator races, we wanted to stagger them so we didn't have more than two people in any one class, mm-hmm. and then kind of cannibalized each other on the potential points. So I've been driving the HPD, and Cornette has been driving and Worley have been driving the GT1s, and Bradley and
Bruce, yeah.
Snelson have been driving the GT3s. Mm-hmm. So among those, individual classes, they're sharing setups as well, but we haven't really overly focused on that. And in terms of race strategy and things like that, we set up a simple, radio channel for our team to speak during the races so that we can kind of communicate. But, we're not trying to do clever stuff like have somebody do a one-stop strategy and somebody else do a two-stop strategy or anything like this. Mm-hmm. We're just having fun.
Got it.
We're trying not to take it too seriously.
On the lighter side of things for the team, who came up with the paint scheme, and how did you allow them to not make it blue and orange?
That was Bradley. Bradley has a really good painter, Rachel, and if there's a way for me to get a link for her so she can get some business if people are interested.
Rachel Whiteford?
Yeah, yep. She does a really good job.
Yep.
And it was Bradley. Bradley wanted to do something in the yellows because that's what he drove. And we picked the Ranier Racing because Ranier being mm-hmm. symbolic of the Northwest. And then we tried to get the, Ranier beer symbol and color scheme. So we did that. And then recently my luck hasn't been so good. So I asked Rachel to build me a Gulf colored Ranier car. So she built me one of those.
Ooh.
So, yeah. So, but that's at HPD. So
that's going to be unveiled at Le Mans, huh?
Exactly.
Nice.
Exactly.
Nice.
The other is that, Ryan Worley is trying to, he's got some actual sponsors as he's trying to get into the real racing world.
Right.
And he drives specific colors for his sponsor.
Uh-huh.
So we don't have a uniform color necessarily. Mitchell and Bradley were the strongest proponents of that, but people are doing their own thing a little bit. As long as they have a Ranier logo on it, we're okay.
Got it. Okay. Well, I just noticed mostly the yellow and orangish colors. So, and I just thought that's just not what I'm used to seeing. So, from you anyway. So, it's very, very unusual. So anyway, I appreciate the backstory on that.
Sure.
What, just as a side note, what is the obviously other than being a fan, what originally brought you to the golf connection?
Oh well. Gosh, it's the sexiest car livery out there.
There you go. All right.
What's not to like?
Martini's pretty good too, though. You gotta admit.
Martini is good. Rothman's good. I mean, there's a lot of good paints.
Yeah, there are.
But that one, for whatever reason, appealed to me.
There you go.
Seeing those, I'm into the vintage racing cars, and so, and I love it when Audi comes back with a Golf livery and things like that. But I don't know, that one spoke to me the most. And my dad he's the one who got me into racing, and he really, really likes that livery as well. And he doesn't watch all the Pac Major races, but he tunes in to the, not live, but he'll watch the broadcasts on YouTube. And he really liked that I was consistent with that Golf color car, because then he could find me in the crowd.
Yeah.
So he's actually upset that I'm driving these Ranier colors.
Well, good. I'm with him.
Harder for him to find me.
I'm with him. I'm with him on that. I'll vote with him.
All right.
Okay, cool. So last thing on the team concept is, so you mentioned it's more for fun, but did you guys have any goals on the season? Have those goals evolved? Have you thought about how you might do things, how you might change your approach for future seasons, or keep
Uh,
it the same?
one of the biggest goals that I had for the team, we've totally sucked at, which is not points or how we finish, but participation.
Ah,
And we wanted to be the team that had the most starts
hmm
and the most finishes of all the teams. And life got in the way, and health got in the way, and stuff like this. So people haven't been able to really show up for all the races. I haven't been able to show up for all the races. So that was one goal that we had. We, hoped that we would be in the top 3, maybe top 5 teams at the end of the season, just because we do have enough talent to do that. We need some breaks to go our way, and they haven't necessarily. But losing Bradley was a big loss for just the potential of the team. So I don't think that there's some strong teams out there,
oh yeah.
and I see them running their own practice servers, and I know that they're, I mean, some teams have 2 teams. So they've got a lot of support out there on the track. And, one of the nice things about being a teammate is that when you're coming up on somebody or you're overtaking somebody, there's just that extra added little bit of trust that you can have for a teammate. So when you have 2 teams out there, 8 cars or 10 cars out there on the track, you got lots and lots of friends out there. So that's really helpful from the team aspect.
100%. 100%. So, okay, cool. And just to make you feel a little better, every team goes through what obviously, and you know this already, goes through what you guys are going through, especially since we're really hobbyists. You guys have 22 starts on the season for your group of 5, and that matches up with the top 3 teams in the league in points. So, obviously, I know you'd like to do better, but you're not too far off.
Yeah, that was the goal. I made a joke at the beginning of the season that we have how many different trophies, Mike?
I don't
we,
know.
we,
I've lost track.
we wanted to add another one called the Iron Cup.
There you go.
Which has nothing to do with athletic supporters, but we wanted the Iron Cup, which is just for the Cal Ripken Award for the most starts.
For the team. That's actually a great idea.
For the team.
You may say that half jokingly, but I like that idea actually quite a bit. Because, anything, honestly, as you well know, I do all of those things as a way to keep people interested. And it's real easy in the course of any racing season, whether real or virtual, to lose interest for any number of reasons. And so anything that can kind of grab you and keep you going, I have found to be helpful. So that's actually pretty cool because, you may have a situation where, hey, guys, we got to keep going because of, we got to have our iron jockstrap. So
exactly.
I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
People might drive faster, but we can out participate them.
Exactly. All right, and I think that's important to a healthy league, to be honest.
Yeah.
Okay. So want to talk about you for a minute, and then kind of let you open up the forum for you to kind of talk about your ideas. So I mentioned it earlier that you won the Rolex in 2014, which was a multi-class race, but pre-Predator. And then you won the Petit Le Mans last year in the Predator. So your 2 wins have come in multi-class racing, and you've been close in a number of other times. I can think of, I think you finished second at the Nürburgring last year. Really, that was a fun one to watch. But what is, in the 3 years you've been doing this, what's your favorite memory?
Favorite memory? Winning the Petit Le Mans was certainly at the top of that. I think racing the Nürburgring, regardless of how I finished, was a super fun race. Going back to that first race, I think it was Stephen Ellis and I.
Yep, that's right.
He won the prototype, and I won that race. As odd as it sounds, was one of the most thrilling for me because I had a 10-second lead about halfway through the race, and over the course of the second half of the race, Ryan Otis just caught up to me, and I swear to God, if there were 2 more laps of that race, I would have lost because he actually had the better pace than I did. So in terms of just an exciting race, it's like kicking off with the best one that I can remember. So that was a really fun race. And then oddly enough, I think it was last year, we raced Formula One cars at Montreal. and David Williams and I got into each other in the very first turn after both saying, be careful. And we both spun out, and he had several spins, which was amazing because he just had just incredible pace. But I came from like the very last person in the field, and I don't remember how I finished, but it was within the top 10, maybe top 5.
That's right.
And that was just a real inspired race because I was just so mad at myself. And I just focused the whole time. So there's been some fun races, and it's not just about the finish. It's more about the competition, and that's been fun. I think I finished one Daytona 500 in the top 10, and so I just wanted to say that, I can turn left, I can get lucky.
I love it. Wouldn't have anything to do with that. What? So that's your favorite memory. What is your favorite race on the calendar, either this year or in years past? Which race would you want to win the most?
Oh, a race I would want to win the most. That's a great question. I'm going to say Le Mans just because it's new, and we've never raced it in the series before.
Right.
So that's the one I'm most looking forward to.
Cool.
I want to win an oval race at some point. That's as odd as that sounds,
Yeah.
I want to win an oval. I don't care what it is, but it's got to be one of the bigger tracks. Those little bull rings I do terrible at. So,
well, we got one coming up. It's called the Indy 500. So
yeah,
you might tap your teammate on the shoulder, Ryan. He's pretty good at this track. I've heard he's won it twice.
He's pretty darn good at it.
Yeah, so he might have a setup for you, but.
Yeah.
He's amazing at this track. Actually, he's amazing anywhere, but
sure,
he is amazing at this track. So I would lean on that 100%, and then you combine that with what you got, and you could be right there.
Yeah, he's already working on it. He's got a good qualifying setup, and he's just trying to get the balance for the race setup.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm just going to plug and play whatever he's got.
Cool.
Lord knows we can't improve on that.
Well, that may be true, but I would heavily let him know that this the weather conditions and the track conditions, it looks like the car is going to be getting real squirrely towards the end of a fuel run. So I would build that into the setup and or pit strategy. But that's just
from the one practice session that we did together, you don't get anywhere near the end of the fuel before things get crazy. So
exactly.
It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see because some of the turns are in the shadows and they're cooler and you get good grip, and then the others are just baking in the sun. So even different, like turn 1 and turn 3, which normally might behave reasonably consistent, are totally different turns. So it'll be interesting this race to see how people, push the tires.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. So, okay, cool. All right. So this, I will preface this, let everybody know. Again, this year we've done some changes. I added the competition committee. That's got growing pains. That's got, honestly, there's things in that we've done that necessarily I would not have chosen individually, and some things I would have. So, and that's fine. You have been offered your support, your advice, and your criticism all equally. So, what are your thoughts on the series, the direction? What would you change? What would you keep the same?
I've been a little outspoken behind the scenes because I think that's the best way to go about that. But, I love the series. We've been doing it for a while. I would argue it's the best series on iRacing. I think people who aren't invited would love to be invited to this series. And I think some people take that for granted. So I just want to say thanks to you and everybody else who helps put it together. In terms of, I love the fact that we're trying to build community. We're not just trying to race and get points. We're trying to get participation. We're doing things like these interviews so you can do driver spotlights and get to know one another better. Having a website that people can go to and look at historical information. I think, we've got a really strong foundation of a league. In terms of the recent changes, I've been outspoken about the whole post-race penalty stuff. Which unfortunately I've been partaking of a little bit too much. But, I love the fact that we get on-track stewards, and I think they've done a fantastic job. I'm really impressed with the on-track stewards, and I love sort of the reasonable creativity, I'll call it, with some of their penalties, where they'll just say, hey, I just want you to do a drive-through, or hey, you just need to give that position back. I think you got it unfairly. They're not dinging guys with crazy penalties. And I love the on-track stuff. The post-race stuff I don't like at all. I just honestly feel like the best thing we could do with the post-race penalties is honor any driver's criticism of another driver. If they think somebody acted egregiously or negligently or with intent to do harm or something like that, or was calling out another driver in private messages or something that's completely uncalled for, then I think, yes, a post-race penalty should be investigated and assessed. But for the ticky-tack racing incident stuff, bump and run, this kind of junk, I just absolutely do not like that. That's just my opinion. My biggest frustration with the competition committee is I feel like they're operating and making decisions in isolation, and they're not including the community of drivers enough. We have a very easy survey system on iRacing. I don't know why we don't use it and ask drivers whether they like the post-race penalties or they like the in-game stewards or they feel like they're too lenient or they're too strict. I just wish that we involved more of the driver community and didn't rely just on the handful of people who I think have a very difficult job of being the competition committee. And they're volunteering for this, and all they do is get grief from drivers who are frustrated with the rules.
Yeah.
And I think that we should just open it up to the community a little bit more.
Yeah.
But things seem to have kind of toned down a little bit with the post-race result penalties and things like this. So maybe it's not so bad now. But when we first started the series this year, I was really worried that we were going to lose a whole bunch of drivers over this stuff. And my argument to those people is, Mike, is I said, this isn't your league, this is our league, and you should incorporate feedback from the drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. So none of that I would disagree with, and I wanted to put it on a tee for you because I knew
I'd be outspoken.
I knew what you would say, and that is cool. And you got to know I appreciate it. Even if I don't agree every time, that doesn't matter. I know that your interest is in the series' best interest. So that's all I really care about. And I'm wrong plenty of times, so that's not a big deal. But I will give you sort of two things. Number one, the season survey, the mid-season survey is not going away. Matter of fact, mid-season is Indianapolis. I've been talking to people, actually even on these interviews, that we'll be having a mid-season member survey right after that race. So to kind of take the temperature of everybody, get their opinion on things that you've brought up, scheduling, whatever, types of races, number of drops, number of fast repairs, all the normal stuff, but also let people be an open forum for people to let us know what they think. I will tell you. Go ahead.
I want to interrupt. One of the things that I look for out of the competition committee, leadership. And I was like, one in particular issue that I was frustrated with was our 2.4-hour race at Daytona, where it was determined that drivers could run on the apron the entire length of the circuit. And, no offense to John Ulmer, he took advantage of that, but I think that's just rinky-dink. And so one of the things that I wish that the competition committee would do is, even if it's within the rules of Daytona, no driver would ever drive down there because it's dirty and there's nothing but marbles and crap like that. It just makes our series look bad. And I was kind of offended at the decision of the competition committee to allow that. That just seemed really bad. When we do these surveys and things like this, I hope that you're allowing drivers to talk about the things that they like and also the things that they don't like. And if I'm the only one who cares about drivers racing under the apron or something like that, then that's fine. I just want to make sure that we're getting enough of the voices heard.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And I would hope that people would speak their minds openly, hopefully constructively as you do, but hopefully openly, most importantly. And that's a good, the one you point to is a good one. That was probably divided very, very evenly from both drivers, competition committee, etc., on how to allow that. And if I recall the conversation, and I don't recall it perfectly, I think that what's the real world? What is the real world application of that rule? And you're right. Sometimes that doesn't match up. And anyway, something to think about. Something to think about for the future. I can remember heated arguments within the competition committee though about whether or not to allow that, and I guess we sided on on allowing it. But so good.
But that's an argument where, sorry to interrupt
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
but that's an argument where before the race, the week leading up to the race, how hard would it have been for the competition committee to survey the racers and say,
Yeah.
do you guys think this should be allowed or not?
Right.
Why do you guys have to decide on something like that, especially if you're evenly split?
Mm-hmm.
If it was 90% one way and 10% the other, well,
Yeah.
it's fine. We don't need to bother asking the drivers. But
Right. So let me jump in for 1 second and let you know why that is. So I absolutely want the feedback of the members, and that's and I know you know me well enough to know that that's true.
yeah,
But I will say that there are times, and actually most of the time in real time, that I would not want to gather the opinion of the whole audience for one very important reason, because I wouldn't get the opinion of the whole audience. I'd get the opinion of the people who wanted
just
to
the most vocal.
right, the most vocal.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so that is the whole reason. Well, that's a part of the reason why I created the competition to begin with, was I wanted to take people who would give their opinion, would be actively engaged all the time. I could rely on consistency from in regard to helping to make a decision. And even with them, there was a couple of decisions I had to make prior to the Coke 600 that literally came up on the night before, and I know you were out of town, so may not even be aware of them. That I didn't even use the competition committee because we wouldn't have had time to gather them. I had to just make a decision.
Right.
And so those things are going to happen from time and again. So
Sure.
So in a pre-race thing, I'll give you some insight into one where we've been talking about literally this week. Was at Indianapolis, they do a 4-lap average for the qualifying time as opposed to a 4-lap best lap, right? Well, iRacing doesn't give us the opportunity in the sessions to select, hey, I want to choose the average, so you can choose best, or if I'm going to go with an average, then it becomes a manual process of opening up every driver's actually the laps that they ran within the results file. So we have sided with going with just the 1 lap, which is what was in the rules originally, but we really wanted to go to a 4-lap average. So those are things that we talk about, and certainly things that we might have brought to the members in total. A lot of times, though, you don't get to have the depth of conversation, and the members aren't necessarily always aware of what's even feasible within the iRacing service to do from a rules perspective or from a protocol perspective. So
as I always want to do, I want to make a suggestion.
Yeah.
Which is, traditionally during the week, we get our best lap in or whatever is easiest for you. I always think you guys should just choose whatever's easiest for you to admin. If I understand qualifying for the Indy 500 this year, they have 2 qualifying. One is to get into like the top 9 or something, and then those guys have a shootout.
Yep.
Why don't we have something similar with the top 10 single lap qualifiers qualify for a second qualifying stint where it's 4 laps and you guys average the 4 laps because it's not that much work.
So you're a funny guy. So we are doing.
I'm a funny guy.
We're doing that. So we have a top 9 shootout.
There you go.
We have a top 9 shootout. So the top 9 shootout is going to happen at 4:00 on Sunday. So right before the race. So obviously trying to get everybody together for a top 9 shootout outside of the race would be unfair because somebody's not going to be able to do it. But no, the top 9 qualifiers during the week are invited to what we call the top 9 shootout, and that's going to be broadcast as well.
That's great TV.
It's going to be awesome TV. I can't wait. So we'll send them out. We'll send them out one at a time. Starting with the 9th place guy, going all the way to the pole sitter. So hopefully it's going to be something that is people are really trying to get into that top 9 because they want to be showcased in that way. Now, you can't finish worse than 9th. I mean, there's not really a whole lot on the line other than the pride of being the first place guy and getting to be on that extra hour of broadcast. So it should be fun. It should be fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a great compromise.
So yeah, and to be honest with you, you're somebody that I would consider strongly in inviting to the competition committee in the future. And really the only thing would be, is your schedule allow for it? And if so,
sure.
Awesome. If not, then that would be the way it goes. But there are some really outspoken people who have done nothing but offer helpful advice, and those are the kind of people that I want to rely on. And again, we open ourselves up for criticism. We open ourselves up for, like you said, a headache from the members.
Yeah.
But it's okay. I accept that willingly, and we just try to build the best series we can.
We have work at Microsoft, and one of the kind of cultural things here is it's okay to be open with your criticism as long as you're willing to do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to be critical. If you call on me, absolutely, I'll try to help out. A suggestion that I was thinking of early in the season is we added 2 new clubs to the, and I wanted to know whether they were represented. Do we have Canadian racers in our competition committee?
Mm-hmm.
And in particular, not because they're Canadian, but because they're new. I wanted to make sure that their voices were being heard, and I honestly don't know who's in the competition committee.
Yeah, that's a great question, and so the answer to that is no, they aren't, and that's not necessarily, and it's a great idea. I think that's 100%. We should have representation from every club. Matter of fact, one of the things that we've talked about in the competition committee is trying to get representation from most of the teams, or the teams that are at least the most active, right? Because we don't want anybody to say, hey, Alliance is being favoritism towards themselves, or Dog Bear or Thunder Road or whatever. We don't need any of that, because it's not the case.
Right.
But we just want it to be as even a playing field as possible. So I think it's a great idea to make sure we include, a Canadian member or maybe a Great Plains member in the competition committee. But the reason we don't is as simple as possible. We started the competition committee last August before we decided that we were going to add the 2 new clubs. As a matter of fact, that was one of the things that the competition committee had to come up with, was were we going to expand and by how much. So when we reevaluate the committee this August, we'll do that every August. As we get kind of like the 3/4 way through the season, any competition committee members who are weren't able to participate as fully as they thought they would be able to, or they anticipate things coming up in their life where they're not going to be able to invest the time, they can bow out, or maybe they're just tired of it, right? I mean, that would be very easy to foresee. They can bow out of it. There may be situations, hopefully not, where I would ask somebody to bow out of it. Again, if I thought their participation was lacking, or if I thought that they're they just weren't in sync with everybody else. It was a constant battle. But and then that would be the time that we would add somebody new. So, yep.
Well, if I can take this opportunity to say thanks to all those guys who do volunteer their time for the competition committee, being admins, helping with the GSRC broadcasts. I mean, we got a lot of people behind the scenes who are trying to make this league better. Mm-hmm. And I think it's kind of a thankless job. So just on behalf of the drivers I know, I want to say thanks to all you guys for what you do to help us.
Yeah, and I'm sure they'll appreciate that, and I do too. Okay, so what other, I'll let you have the final stanza here. What? Well, actually, I've got one question for you. Totally different topic. I'm going to do a 180, and then I'm going to bring it back and say, if you're running the series, what would you do differently? But but before we get to that one, you mentioned classic cars, classic series. So, but what do you watch on, if racing's on TV, what are you watching?
I like road racing. So. I like the Indy cars when they're on a road circuit. I like the Pirelli series. I like British touring cars.
Oh, there you go.
I never got into the Australian V8, Super V8s, although that can be exciting. Formula One, obviously. But German touring cars is pretty exciting to watch as well. So any sort of road racing. But oddly enough, I get a thrill out of watching vintage racing on YouTube. So pulling up Senna or Schumacher or, Mika Hakkinen, and, watching some of these vintage, and there's some amazing stuff out there with Alan Prost and Niki Lauda. And so I'll go to YouTube and put something on, and they got full races and broadcasts and some of the in-car footage going around Monaco. It's just crazy stuff. So I'll kind of, like I said, kind of a vintage guy. I'll go back and I'll look at stuff, and it's to me it's almost more compelling than some of the genericized racing that we have right now, especially in NASCAR, where it's just template cars. Going back and watching Richard Petty and Cale Yarborough and AJ Foyt and David Pearson, Waltrip, that was kind of the heyday of NASCAR for me. And I'm not really that old, but watching it with my dad.
Yeah,
it's you could tell a Dodge from a Chevy back then.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that vintage aspect of racing.
Awesome. All right. Well, cool. All right. So here it is. So the template is clean. The paintbrush is yours. What would you do?
If I was Mike for a day,
There you go.
golly, I would have a wider variety of cars in our league.
Okay.
I can't recall a single race in 3 years that featured the Lotus 49 or 79, a Star Mazda. There's on the oval side. I know that there's cars that we haven't raced yet. I'd like to see a wider variety of cars used. I would like a wider variety of tracks used. So, as crazy as it sounds, if we wanted to go to Lime Rock or Summit Point, one of the smaller circuits, or, I'd like to see more variety. I know that we got our showcase events and we kind of put the jewels in our schedule, but I think it would be great. One thing that I really, really liked, and I think that there's a wide variety of causes with which we could do this, is I really liked having the Watkins Glen Dallara charity event that we did around Christmas time.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it would be wonderful if we had, say, 4 or 5 different charity events that people could participate. It's not for points. People put in $5 or $10, whatever the entry fee might be. And we have a number of different various causes throughout the year that seem to kind of creep up, or standard ones that we could donate money towards.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to see more charity races if I was king for a day.
Love it.
Wider variety of stuff. So those are the 2 biggest ones for me. Otherwise, I think, the league's doing a great job, and we got great people in the league. And so I'm actually a proponent for it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think sometimes we try to add too much new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm kind of a loyalist, I guess, to the stuff that has made this as successful as it has been, and get concerned when we bring up post-race penalties and things like this that might deter racers from participating as much as they have. So those would be my thoughts.
Okay, I appreciate that. That's good. Your new Coke didn't go over so good, did it?
No. Classic Coke.
All right, fair enough. All right, sir, it has been a pleasure. I know you're working. Did you have anything else for me, or should I let you go?
No, I just want to say thanks for interviewing me. I think it's a wonderful platform. I'm looking forward to listening to other drivers' thoughts and opinions and getting to know them better.
You got it. All right, sir. Well, I'll let you be, and I appreciate your time. Okay?
Mike, I had one more idea.
Yeah, go for it.
And I don't know how hard it would be to orchestrate, but I think it would be wonderful if we had an actual face-to-face meetup at some point. And
great idea.
Just an outdoor picnic.
Yeah.
Just bring yourselves, Lake Sammamish State Park, or I don't know where the most centralized location would be in Washington, but try to get a face-to-face together. I think would be a wonderful thing once a year.
Oh, I think that's a great idea. I mean, especially, at least at the club level. I mean, Club Texas, it's not a club thing, but they have...
Absolutely. But they could get together on the same day or whatever.
Yeah, well, they have their iRace for Life every year that they do in Dallas, which, again, is not a Club Texas thing specifically. A lot of iRacers come from all over, but it's a meetup of iRacers. It's really cool. But in the Northwest, we could do something like that even at PIR. Or wherever. It doesn't, like you said, it doesn't matter.
Right.
But I think that'd be really, really awesome. I agree.
Yeah. All right, I'm done being king.
You're done being king. All right. Well, I'll let you go on back to being Jimbo, and I'll be Mike, and I wish you the best. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
We'll see you in Indy.
Thanks for getting me connected today.
You got it. No problem.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.